Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. Today, we currently have a 7-game NBA slate on Saturday. Right now, December 14th, 11 days till Christmas, 10 till Christmas Eve to break down today. Before we get into it, welcome back. If you were brand new here, my name is Sal Vetri. I indeed cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, MLB, and the WNBA streets. Right here's another NBA breakdown where I do have projections for this breakdown and video that will go along with it, player projections and my interests over on Patreon. That is linked up down below if you want to check it out. All that Patreon pretty much is where I house those projections. You can check it out for, I don't know what it comes down to. If you play NBA daily fantasy sports on a daily basis, it probably comes down to like 80 cents a day or something like that. So you can check it out. There's also All Sports Package where you get all of my NFL content that is almost all out for the weekend. Today we have a live stream for patrons only over on YouTube that only patrons can access, as well as tomorrow we will have the Closing Thoughts podcast content going out every single day over on Patreon, similar to how that is happening here on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in my exclusive content, the stuff that keeps the lights on here at the Sal Vetri YouTube channel and Sal Vetri Show podcast, be sure to check that out. You can follow me also on my social medias linked up down below if you are interested as well. Let me know down below who's your favorite player below the 5K range today. We had a winner yesterday of the PayPal giveaway. Favorite player below the 5K range have to be a subscriber. So hit the subscribe button on the podcast, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and let me know in the comments. Leave your Twitter handle or a PayPal so I can be sure to get that winnings to you next Friday. Final thoughts video for the NFL. I will announce the winner from all week longs of the contest. In the comment section, you will get a wheel spin. So yes, your favorite play below 5K. And finally, this video is sponsored today by Drafters. It is an online snake draft format. They have different styles too, as well as a rankum game mode. You should check them out. But pretty much what it is, it's a different style to DFS. They have some things in the works that are very exciting that I've heard about. Sound pretty cool. There's no more salary cap in this format so far, so it's a different style. You draft just like season long. So if you're in your season long playoffs, you understand that. If you're in season long in general, you understand that. And then you just go through and you draft for that specific week. We do have a Drafters listener league this week. There's still spots left, so be sure down below in the description to check out Drafters. There is a listener league. The promo code SAL, SAL100, 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 get you a 100% deposit match up to $50. So you can check that out, linked up down below. And sure, get in the listener league. I urge you to. It's for the NFL Week 15 season. There are a few spots left, so get up in there. Cool. So let's get into this now. I appreciate all of you. Hit that subscribe button before we get going. The subscribe button on the podcast as well helps me out a ton. Takes a couple seconds of your time, and it really goes a long way for helping this channel grow, supporting the channel. Starting in Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving remains out with the shoulder injury. Spencer Dinwiddie is dynamically priced down for the matchup against a tough Toronto team, although they might be without Fred VanVleet today. Musa and Theo Pinson would also benefit in secondary roles. For Dallas, DeLon Wright's the only injury here against Miami today, questionable with an adductor. Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson would be the guys who benefit the most. For Denver, the only injury here is questionable $4,800 Paul Millsap against Oklahoma City Thunder today with a quad. Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee would benefit if he was to miss. For Houston, they said that Russell Westbrook was likely to play on Friday and then potentially would be doubtful to play on Saturday, the second night of the back-to-back. So now we have Russell Westbrook here at $9,600, doubtful for rest reasons. James Harden at $12,900 becomes a dynamite play. You have to pay for it, but it's really hard not to project this guy for damn near close to 2 fantasy points per minute. Austin Rivers should see around 30 minutes of production in place of Russell Westbrook. And Clint Capella, whose price is dropping, rebound rate should go even higher than it already is, with Westbrook's 8 to 12 rebounds a game out of this one. Daniel House, Ben McLemore, PJ Tucker, all these secondary guys would also see a bump just because of how much usage Russell Westbrook is seeing. But the main beneficiaries, Harden, Clint Capella, and Austin Rivers. Paul George is probable for rest reasons. He said last night that he will play on the second night of the back-to-back today at just $8,300. His teammate at $8,700, Kawhi Leonard, they said at the beginning of the year, is pretty much just going to sit out all back-to-back, so we'll see what happens with him. There is no official designation placed on him, but I have him as questionable for rest, and I would, if I had to bet money on it, would say he misses this game, which would definitely benefit Paul George coming off of a 60-plus point fantasy performance last night with Kawhi out there. Kawhi also doing well, 57 points. They were a little bit man down with no Patrick Beverley or Lou Williams. So $8,300 Paul George would be affected in a huge way. Lou Williams, who missed yesterday, $7,000. He missed yesterday due to a calf injury, calf soreness. He would be in play. Montrezl Harrell is in a fantastic spot at a cheap price point. And JaMychal Green, if he was to suit up, would also be a great play. The rest of the Clippers, we just kind of touched on all of them. Lou Williams, questionable with a calf. Pat Beverley, questionable with a concussion. They both missed yesterday. Keep an eye on them. Derrick Walton Jr., the point guard, played 30 minutes in their place. And then Mann saw 18 minutes shooting guard. So if one of them is in, they see a big bump. If both of them are in, I think they're both okay. If Lou Williams is in at 7K with no Pat Bev and no Kawhi Leonard, yeah, he's in line for 32 plus minutes of really high usage production. And then JaMychal Green is going to be questionable with the back today. If he is in, he actually does see some impact since there is no Kawhi Leonard out there, or at least we're assuming no Kawhi. John Morant for Memphis, $7,400, questionable with a back injury, missed last night. Tyus Jones and DeAnthony Melton both benefited from that. Jones started directly in place of him, but they both saw enough minutes to see value in the 24-minute or 24 fantasy point range. For Miami, a lot of injuries here. The same ones, though. Deion Waiters is out with his second suspension of the season, 6-game suspension. Justice Winslow out with a back injury. Goran Dragic's out with a groin. Those 3 injuries, and 2 injuries really, and 1 suspension, are going to impact Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, and Jimmy Butler. Those will be the main benefactors of those guys being out. Eric Bledsoe, questionable today with a shin injury. If he's out, $3,900 George Hill becomes a really appealing play and a really appealing matchup against Cleveland and Colin Sexton and Darius Garland and Cedi Osman. A backcourt that features some of the worst defenders from last year and once again some of the worst defenders this year. So keep an eye on Bledsoe. He's okay at $6,700, but with Chris Middleton getting back to seamlessly full health, he's not a priority at that price point. But George Hill at $3,900 would become a priority to play 28 to 30 minutes in place of Bledsoe in a really good matchup at a nice price point. Terrence Ferguson is going to be out with a hip. Abdel Nader will continue to play, probably extended run, close to 30 minutes per game. He's been pretty good in the last 2 starts. And then Dennis Schroeder would also see a bump. For Toronto, the only injury is Fred VanVleet, questionable with a knee. If he is out, Kyle Lowry, who is now priced up to $7,800, would become more in play. Norman Powell, well, already in play, but become more appealing, at least at that price tag. Norman Powell, OG Anunoby would also be benefits if indeed Fred VanVleet missed. If Fred VanVleet starts, though, $6,600 is a really nice price point for him. And lastly, the Washington injuries here. Mo Wagner, $5,800, is out with an ankle. Look, they're already down Thomas Bryant. They're down Mo Wagner. The only centers that they have left are Jan Mahinmi, and then they have Rui Hachimura. So we're probably going to get a good amount of Mahinmi, and then Rui Hachimura is probably going to play some backup center, a good amount of it, play a ton of the 4. He'll see huge minutes, close to 40. Davis Bertans will also be impacted from getting not only all of his minutes at the 3, but most likely sliding down to the floor when Rui is playing at the 5. So Rui becomes a really nice play today, as well as some of those other Washington bigs. And then Isaiah Thomas is questionable today with a calf. Ish Smith, Bradley Beal, Troy Brown would be the guys who are the biggest impact. Mainly Ish Smith would go out of the starting rotation there if Isaiah was to come back. And Isaiah at $5,000 against Memphis guards, a pretty nice spot to target. Speaking of target, let's get to the target offense sheet. Half of these games are pretty much not out yet. We have a 7-game slate with only 4 of the game totals out. I won't touch on too much here. We'll get right to the early interest on this Saturday 7-gamer, but I will point out that even without Russell Westbrook, Houston still has a 117.5 team implied total, and that's without Russell Westbrook likely to play today. So it is a tougher matchup against Detroit. Detroit plays at a very slow pace. It's actually going to drop this one about 2 possessions for the Houston side, so they're in a pace down spot. Detroit in a big pace up spot can gain 3 possessions today, so no Russell Westbrook. They already have James Harden priced to $12,900, so yeah, he's going to be in line for like almost a 2 fantasy point per minute production for me. I'm probably going to be projecting this guy for like 78 fantasy points. So, yeah, I'm going to think that he's okay at that price point. It's tough because on this slate, and you're about to see, that 7K range and the 8K range is just loaded with fantastic plays, whether it be for injury or just natural built-in pricing of the slate. But Harden at $12,900, in my opinion, is a priority, even in this matchup, a tougher matchup against Detroit today. And then Clint Capella, although a really tough and a difficult rebounding spot against Drummond, against Blake Griffin, he's also in play. $7,500 is too cheap, especially if Russell Westbrook is unlikely to play today. And then you can just fill in the rest of the value. So a really nice pace spot. They're 8.5-point favorites against Detroit, 117.5 team total for Houston, 109 team total for Detroit. Just going to another game, Toronto and Brooklyn, another one that we have a total for. Toronto, 7.5-point favorites, 113.25 team implied total. What do you target against Brooklyn? Well, bigs, right? They just have had trouble rebounding. Now, Jared Allen has been a lot better as of late, but still trouble rebounding. And 2 bigs in DeAndre Jordan and Allen that won't come out of the paint. So if you have a guy who can shoot anywhere out of the paint, it's a good spot. Maybe like a Marc Gasol who can leave the paint. Although I don't like the minute split that we still get between Marc Gasol and Ibaka. So give me Pascal Siakam at some of the cheapest price point I've seen on him in a while. He's going to go out there and play 38 minutes. He's going up against Brooklyn. The direct matchup in set pieces will be against Taurean Prince, but for the most part, it's just going to be a really, really good rebounding bump spot. and just a really good pure scoring spot for Siakam. He's one of the guys in those 7 and 8K ranges that I really like. Outside of Siakam, though, no real interest. If Fred VanVleet plays, $6,600 is a fair price point, so I will get some interest there. OG Anunoby, somewhat interesting because of the big minutes he will play if indeed Fred VanVleet is out. But the priority, and really the guy I want the most here, is Siakam. And on the Brooklyn side, I really just want Spencer Dinwiddie. He's down to 7,700 because of the matchup. If no Fred VanVleet, it helps him more. But he's just going to play so many minutes at high usage, a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy with no LeVert and Kyrie Irving out there. A guy who's seeing around 30+% usage, 35+% assist percentage with those guys off the court this season. Hard not to like that. I prefer Pascal from this game. And then number 2, I prefer Spencer Dinwiddie. And then 3 would probably be Fred VanVleet if he does suit up. A 105.75 team implied total for Brooklyn. Again, they're 7.5 point underdogs. And in this game, it's pretty much a neutral pace spot for both teams. Slight pace down spot of a possession or so for Toronto, but nothing major. And those are the main spots that we can target on right now. We have a lot of news that we're waiting on from the Clippers, from Miami. We already know the news from Miami, so that helps. But the Clippers, the main one here. If there is no Kawhi, Paul George at 8,300, you know what to do. I think you just smash him in a good rebounding spot against Chicago and a good pure scoring spot against Chicago. Chicago plays at actually a really nice pace as well. These two teams play at a very similar pace. So overall, 6.5 point favorites. The team total's not out yet because I'm sure they're waiting on Lou Williams news, Pat Beverly, and obviously Kawhi Leonard. So it's a spot where I would get to a lot of Paul George. I would get to a ton of Montrezl Harrell at his price point. If Lou Williams was to suit up, I wouldn't mind getting there, but he's still 7K. I prioritize this team, and we'll just assume there's no Kawhi Leonard for the sake of this video, as Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, and then Lou Williams after that. If Pat Bev was to suit up, he would be my 4th interest. I'd probably just scoop up a lot of Harrell and a lot of Paul George in this situation. Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard on the court this season, is averaging over 1.5 fantasy points per minute, and he's probably going to play, even on the second end of a back-to-back, at least 32 minutes. That's really, really hard to ignore because they never priced him up. If anything, they priced him down. His price is down since yesterday. Another spot that I think is really good is Miami versus Dallas. You're going to get a fantastic spot for Bam Adebayo here against Dallas and Dwight Powell. And yes, a more difficult matchup against Kristaps Porzingis, but won't see that one all that much. I think it's a really nice spot for Bam Adebayo at his price point, reducing as well. So we start to look at this range. You have Paul George at 83. You have Siakam in the low 8K range. You have Bam Adebayo right in that same range. Clint Capella at 7,500 to an extent as well. $7,700 Spencer Dinwiddie. These guys, I have a lot of interest in all of them. I also have a lot of interest in James Harden, so I obviously can't get to more than maybe one of those guys if I am playing Harden, unless we get some extreme value to open up. So even on a slate where Harden has no Westbrook and there's a real chance he goes out there and scores 75, 80, and it's really hard to make up for that, there's some lineups today, and maybe I even prioritize it depending on what value looks like, where I'll just go to all those 7K guys. I'll get 4 or 5 of them, get some pieces of value in the 3 or 4K range, and build from there, right? Like, we don't have that much built-in value. If you get no Russ today, Austin Rivers at the 4K range becomes value, but is that enough to just that one piece, and you're hoping for 30 minutes and 20 fantasy points at that point? Is that enough to make Harden viable? So yes, Harden is a great play right now, but we have to see what value does indeed open up to make it at least worth getting to him instead of just forcing in 3K guys. George Hill at 3,900 if there's no Bledsoe. That would be really good value that helps us get up to Harden, but for right now, there's nothing that's natural on this slate that stands out to me. And we'll get into that right now. So James Harden at 12,900, literally what I was just talking about as we move over to the early interest sheet for those on the audio version. You can check it out on YouTube if you want. Again, hit that subscribe button. And also, if you're listening to this point, I will link up right above my Patreon NBA projections for today. You can check them out. Click that link. It'll open a new page, and you can browse and just see what those are all about. But James Harden at $12,900, you can see what I was just talking about. The drop-off of over $4,000 is then where this next range becomes really attractive to me. So get to Harden if you want. Shooting guard eligible. His usage rate with Russell Westbrook on the court this season is 39.2%. Without him on the court, it's going to be spiking close to 50+%. He's going to play 40 minutes in this game. Everything lines up for James Harden. The matchup is a little bit difficult, but everything lines up for him to, at $13,000, go out there and at least hit that median that you need from him. 65 probably gets to 70 plus majority of the time, right? So he should probably be this price point, if not more. It's just a matter of, can you get to him? And you see this $4,600 drop off to my next interest just shows you that, yeah, I really like this next range, and there's not a lot of other guys up there. It's either I pay up for Harden and get value, or I go balanced to Paul George at 8,300. Really hard to ignore Paul George today, who will not have the same 2 fantasy point per minute projection that James Harden will, but 1.5, 1.6 for a really good matchup where you could roster him in the small forward spot. That's usually a weak spot, and at this point he's only $8,300. Yes, it's a really good spot for Paul George. I prefer him maybe even more than Harden based on the price point at this point. Bam Adebayo at 8,100 we discussed. Pascal Siakam 79. It's all the guys that I just said. Clint Capella 75 and Dinwiddie is at 77. All these guys in this range, I would rank the 7K to 8K range for me as 1 Paul George, 2 Pascal Siakam, 3 Bam Adebayo, 4 Spencer Dinwiddie, and 5 Clint Capella. And then we can go even down to 6. Actually, I would go 5 Jonas Valanciunas, 6 Clint Capella. So, and then 7 Lou Williams, depending on if he plays. So, I like that range a lot. That is where I rank it, 7 to 8,300. It's a difficult range to pick through. I probably should have made the question of the day, and it's too late now because some people probably tuned out or already commented. I should have made it between 7 and the 7,000 and Paul George $8,300 range, but too late. $6,900 Rui Hachimura. He becomes more of a priority play for me on this slate as well. Now, he's priced up there, so he's not the priority, but against Memphis, 6,900, he's going to play 40 minutes. He's going to play a lot more, probably half, if not more of those minutes now at the 5, which helps him a lot. Against Jonas, it's a tougher rebounding spot, but I think he'll be fine just on pure minutes. Jaren Jackson Jr., huge game last night. He had his 5 fouls, but he still played 29 minutes. He scored, I think, 43 real-life points. I'm not banking on that again, but the matchup against Washington, no Mo Wagner, no Thomas Bryant. It's just a spot where you're going to have more rebounds for a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. There's just going to be leaking rebounds for him and Jonas Valanciunas today. Montrezl Harrell. So outside of Paul George, outside of James Harden, guys who just stand out as really, really good spots today. Harrell's another one at 6,400. He might be $1,000 too cheap in a fantastic rebounding spot against Wendell Carter, against Lauri Markkanen, and you have no Kawhi Leonard out there, so the overall usage, especially when he's on the court and Paul George is not on the court, is going to be great for Harrell. If you get Lou Williams and Harrell on the court together with no George, which you will in this one if Lou Williams is healthy, you're going to get a ton of pick and roll action. You're just going to get a ton of really, really good spots for Montrezl Harrell. At $6,300, Will Barton is in play for me, as well as his teammate Jamal Murray. Even more in play at $5,900. Played 28 minutes last time out. Might have been somewhat due to injury, but I think that he's fine to play his normal run here. A 26.2% usage guy, averaging over 31 minutes per game. Murray below 6K. It's the first time I think I've seen this in a while, maybe all season long. I have to take advantage of that spot as a shooting guard eligible point guard. And now we got to the $4,300 below range where you're going to see all these guys, if you're on the video version, are like in yellow, right? And it just pretty much means caution. We need some things to happen first, or I want to let you know that this is a risky play. D'Anthony Melton and Tyus Jones. Melton 4,300, Tyus Jones at 4,000. Only in play for me, only if Ja Morant is out. So we'll see. He missed last night due to the back injury. We'll see if that was more maintenance, or we'll see if he plays on tonight. If he is out, then I think you get both of these guys in fine spots. Tyus Jones will probably get more stable minutes at $4,000. I prefer him over Melton, but Melton has been by far the better fantasy point per minute producer and seeing a lot more usage when he's on the court. Both of them are in play if Ja Morant is out. I think I would prefer slightly Tyus Jones, but I think either are in play. Tyler Hero also at 4,300. He's been terrible when guys like Winslow or Dragic are in, and Winslow has been in for a little bit as of late. So he's boom or bust. He is the definition of the wide receiver to Deshaun Jackson in the NFL who runs straight down the field. Maybe a little bit different for D Jackson when he was healthy this year, but runs straight down the field and catches a bomb or doesn't. Similar to maybe like Tyrell Williams for the Oakland Raiders. Austin Hero, if he doesn't hit his 7 or 8 3-pointers or like his 5, actually let's just say 5 3-pointers, 7 or 8 actual shots, it's all shooting for him. He needs to rely on the 25 real points to get you 30 fantasy points. So at 4,300 on this slate right now, I think it's actually worth the risk in some spots because we just don't have obvious value. Austin Rivers at 4,100 might be the most obvious value if indeed Russ Westbrook is ruled out. 4,100 against Detroit, throw him in your shooting guard spot. You probably get 30 minutes out of him at not the greatest usage. 30 minutes more times than not for Rivers will translate to 20 to 24 fantasy points, but that's fine at that price point. George Hill at 3,900 would become, out of all these guys right here, the foreseen potential injuries of Eric Bledsoe, probably become my favorite value on the slate. A shooting guard eligible point guard who would play around 30 minutes against Cleveland's terrible defense. I would really like that. Cleveland is giving up the most fantasy points extra per possession due to their bad defense in the entire league, and it's similar to last year's historically bad defense. $3,900 George Hill becomes a really good play if Bledsoe is out. And finally, Derrick Walton Jr., if you get no Lou Williams or Pat Bev, I think one of them will suit up today, but if you get neither of them, he played 30 minutes last night, and now you have him playing potentially that same run with no Kawhi Leonard if he's going to rest, so it's not great at 3,700, but I think it's at least worth mentioning. Even if he got his 30 minutes and Kawhi was out and all those guys were out, he still might only get you 18 fantasy points. So it's a concern, but you just need to get the minutes at this point. And again, it was just like a one-game sample of starting, and now you might not have Kawhi next to him. So That is where I'm at right now for the 7-game slate. Let me know what you think. Who is your favorite 5K or below player on the slate? Leave a Twitter handle or a PayPal for me to contact you, and you'll be entered into the contest to win next Friday. And lastly, if you're still listening all the way through, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I keep forgetting to say that, but hit that notification bell. It takes a couple seconds as well. It'll just let you know when I go live or when some of my videos are posted. It won't spam you. Don't worry about that. If anything, you can unsubscribe from it, but hit the notification bell. Allows you to understand when my videos are going live. So if you do want to tune in right away, it helps the algorithm. More people are coming to it right away. Oh, let's show this to more other people who aren't subscribed. And that's how the whole notification bell works. So do hit that if you're still listening. It does help me out. About 30% of the followers do hit the notification bell, so I don't know what to baseline that as. It might be good, it might not. I have no idea, so let's urge it, get a little bit more. And check out Drafters. The Listener League still has spots open for the NFL Week 15 part of the season, so if you're still listening to this point, hit the description below, the show notes, whatever it might be, and see where you can get involved with the Listener League over on Drafters. Promo code SAL100, SAL100 for a 100% deposit bonus up to $50. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.